All right, get ready for the show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Blind Luck, the search for Harry Greb's lost films. That's right, the greatest middleweight of all time. You're looking at him, the big fella from Pittsburgh, the windmill. And his lost film, where'd they all go? He fought 299 times. Boy, oh boy. You would think that some of them would be around. So we're really looking forward to talking about that and seeing how that goes as we search for what we think is pretty much the most valuable sports memorabilia in the world right now. You know, we know about Honus Wagner, right? The baseball card. And how much it's worth. We know he's a guy too, right? He was from Pittsburgh, like his friend. They were close personals. And who is bigger? Way bigger than Honus Wagner. But think about how big Honus Wagner's card is worth. Millions, right? Well, Harry Greb's lost films, my oh my, said to be worth tens of millions of dollars. And that's just for just a little bit. A little bit. And that's what we're here for, to introduce today, which is really interesting and very important for us to introduce to the public. Finally, the book that we've put out called Oscar, Am I a Wiener? That's right. You'll see it up on the corner there. Yes, available on Amazon. We can't wait. It's a pretty funny story about how I've tried over the years to convince people about how great the Pittsburgh windmill for, the middleweight champion, right, from the 1920s, and bring him back to life, because he's basically been a lost legend, and that's what we're calling him. The rise of the lost legend right here, called Blind Luck, and there's a reason for that. Most people have guessed probably by now, if you don't know the story of Harry. He fought 299 times, and in my opinion, the greatest fighter of all time. The only thing that distinguishes him from Sugar Ray Robinson, who's considered by most, as the best, is film, to prove that the man over my shoulder is indeed the greatest boxer of all time. And there's reasons for it, and there's proof through numbers and proof through level of opposition. And he was incomparable when it comes to level of opposition of Hall of Famers. And that's just numbers don't lie. And his numbers don't lie. And neither do Sugar Ray Robinson, one amazing athlete and always been considered to be, right, the standard bearer. But on this show, we're going to try to prove, first of all, let's find the films. But in the meantime, talk about how great the guy is, why we think he's as great as he is, because we really do believe he is. And yeah, we'll be talking to experts, we'll be talking to fans, we'll be talking to fighters, we'll be talking to a lot of people. I bumped into a lot of people along the way, a lot of great stories in my book, Oscar, Am I a Wiener? And it's really come to that, right? Because what I did was, and the whole book starts on how I started the idea of writing a screenplay about Harry Greb on a bet. And one night when I had been in a very bad car accident. So it goes from there. And it's a fun story. And in the end, we're going to hope, bob and weave, that it's going to be fruitious. Yes. We're going to win is what it is. Unanimous decision. It'll be a knockout in the end because it's Harry Greb, the greatest middleweight of all time and the greatest boxer pound for pound. And we'll prove it with the 299 fights. Right. So, one thing is, jeepers, where are the films? Why did they all go missing, and why we go on YouTube and find all his contemporaries? Pretty much all his contemporaries. There's one guy that's not there. But for the greatest of all time not to be there, it's very, I wouldn't say suspicious. Yeah, you could say that. Who needs a good conspiracy theory? I do. No. So we delve into why we think that the films went missing, why they went missing, where they were, where they were shown. Were they shown films? What do you mean? When did he fight? Well, he fought in the 1920s, late teens and 20s, died in 1926. And sure, there were lots of film there. It was actually a huge part of the boxing and film world. They kind of collided because film was being really experimented at the time. And boxing was such an easy sport to film because you just set up the camera and you do a wide shot of the ring. So they used it quite a bit. And there was a lot of film that was done. In fact, if you look in the history books, Edison was the guy that started the first film. And he had a film studio in San Francisco, somewhere in California. And it's a very famous studio. And the first boxing film was James J. Corbett, the first heavyweight champ of the gloved era. And he became the first paid actor. And he boxed another guy. And you can find it somewhere on YouTube. Yeah, you can find that. And that was like in 1896, I think. 1800s. So Greb fought in 1913, might have been his first. Yeah, in fact, today, March 8th, 2023, as we start the show, this is the day that Harry Greb started his professional career. 298 fights after tonight's fight against Red Crumpston in Pittsburgh. And he fought a lot in Pittsburgh for the first, 50 fights or so. But we will get into his career and we will prove to the people watching that are skeptical, a little bit skeptical maybe, that an old fighter? What do you mean an old fighter? Did they fight like this? We'll prove different. We'll talk to the people that know more than us. We believe that we're historians on a level, but we're not like Lee Groves, who's the number one historian in the world. Lee's a friend of the show. He will be on the show a lot talking. And his friend James Smitty. Smitty will be on asking questions, I'm sure, throwing his 2 cents in about his interactions with all the greats that have talked about the great man Harry Greb and about how great he really was. His style is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at middleweights of that caliber of Sugar Ray Robinson. If he can be said in the same breath, and he can, obviously, what would happen if they went head-to-head? I'm telling you, I have Harry Greb winning the fight because styles make fights. Sugar Ray Robinson lost 4 or 5 times in middleweights. He regained the championship, and that's what makes him great. Is he 5-time middleweight champ? Because he kept winning it back. But that doesn't mean he wouldn't lose to Harry Greb, because Harry's style was way different than like Carmen Basilio and the guys that he lost to, Randy Turpin. Harry Greb's style was so different than anything. It's never been seen before. Hello? Oscar, am I a wiener? Yeah, I am. But the thing is, when you read the story and you hear the stories that we're going to talk about on the show, you'll get a kick out of it. But you'll also realize, holy jumpins', Hollywood missed one, didn't they? Not now. So we're really proud of what we've done, how we're doing it, and how we're pushing forward with the project. And we've got partners that are making sure that our dream comes true. Now we just got to find the film, right? So that would be kind of neat to be getting the people like you guys to subscribe and like and follow and start talking, because we've already got the people talking on the internet already about it, because they're wondering whether or not this is a possibility. Is it true that there could be film out there and that it actually could be usable and that we could see? Yeah, it's possible for sure. Recently, within the last 5 years anyway, film has been found by a gentleman who collected 35 millimeter film. And when he put it in his projector to look at home, it was Charlie Chaplin's second film from Hollywood from 1917. So it was intact. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough that you could see it and that you could recognize what it is, enough to ID it. And it took a while to figure out what it was, but boy, there it was. It was called a short film called Zapped, which was a propaganda movie film. In 1917. So that was well before Harry Greb's prime. So that means that there's still, if stored properly, the films could still be usable. And then we could prove what we've been saying for the last few years, that, you know what? There's a new mountain goat. There's a new mountain goat. And we'll try to prove it. We'll try to prove it with stats alone, because people are saying, well, how do you know that? Through newspaper clippings? Well, we can prove through that, and plus the films of the other people that are out there. But just because you don't see it, we knew Julius Caesar and what he did. There's history. We should be able to be smart because we're not looking back that far. But in the meantime, to prove our point, let's find the film and tell the story about how Jim Jacobs, who was Mike Tyson's manager, and how he spent so much time and effort in his life and career looking for the great Harry Greb's films, because we know that his fights were filmed. At least 5 that we can talk about that are proven. And it's proven because they are in old newspapers, advertisements. And what they do is the fight would happen, and then the film would be distributed into theaters. And then maybe a week later, maybe 2 weeks later, people would enjoy the fight. They would know the result through wire service and newspapers, but it was entertainment for them. They would go in and would be, in lieu of other things like movies, they would get to see the boxing match. And we know that through these newspaper clippings and articles and ads that the fights actually happened. And were filmed by particular companies too. So yeah, the fights in particular that we know, one of the Tunney fights, he fought Gene Tunney 5 times. Most people would know if you look up the records of Gene Tunney, the great Gene Tunney. He only lost the one time, and that was to the lad there. Yeah, so the bottom line is, if we could find the films, if we could do something together on the internet to try to drum up some support to realize, you know what? Could be in Grandpa's attic, right? We don't know where it is. And Jim Jacobs, like we were saying, is the guy that looked all his life and had, what was it, Big Fights Incorporated, yeah. When he died, his family sold his collection of films to ESPN for millions of dollars, because he spent all those years as the world's largest fight film collector. And he said that he would give it all up for one fight film of the great Harry Greb. That's how rare. So think about it. His buddy, Honus Wagner. Rare, that card that has been sold around the world. Oh my God, rare, worth millions. Harry Greb's fight films from the same town, Pittsburgh. Give me a break. Millions and millions of dollars more. It is so worth millions and worthy of our look and our conversation, because what we're doing on the show is not just talking about the old fighters and how great they were, because they were, but comparing them to modern day fighters, and totally fair, open discussion as to who would beat who. Let's see the matchups between, for example, Canelo fought this past weekend against John Ryder. A unanimous decision, and people are talking about whether Canelo's on his down side of his career, which he probably is. Fought 60 times practically, right? So we compare, and we look at it and go, okay, well, Canelo is a guy that fought at different weights. That's the sign of greatness, the ability to go up a weight class and handle somebody of a bigger size and still do not just reasonably well, great. And Canelo has done great. Up until Bivol, he's done great. So he's a guy that is a great comparison to Harry Greb, because Harry Greb did the exact same thing. Fought at 160, but fought right up to heavyweight. And fought, I think, 20 heavyweights or something. So you're insane. Crazy. Some of the stories when we get going on this series, so neat that we're starting it on the very first time the man fought, right? So that's right. So let's go from there. Let's just talk about the greatness of him, and we'll do that with Not just me bragging about them, because that's not what it's about. It's about finding the film and getting it into the Hall of Fame, right? And then interacting with some of the greatest champions out there, because they're interested. It's what the sport's about. What do you mean there's missing film? How do we find it? Where would it be? Where was it shot? Who shot it? Could it just be all lost? Yeah, all of that. There are a lot of different stories as to where it could be, why it got destroyed, the war effort, why silver nitrate breaks down and it might not be in great condition right now, so we need to find it now. So, like and subscribe. Let's get this conversation going. And yeah, we'll talk about my book, Oscar and Maya Wiener, as we get into the series and discuss a little bit about the anecdotes about what we did and who we talked to. A Star Wars producer is behind the project. Hello. So we get to talk about that, and we're all excited about some of the things that are happening and as we move forward, and how we took 3 steps forward and then 1 step back and then pivoted like that, like somebody we know. So the story goes, Harry Greb's missing films here on Blind Luck. And of course, my proud book, Oscar and Maya Wiener. It's going to be on the audiobook as well, available very soon. So just wanted to get you guys updated on that. I wanted to get you all stoked about the conversation coming up and how, hey, let's just throw it out there. How would you think Canelo in his prime, maybe he's not in his prime now, but when he fought Triple G, for example, how would he have done against the great Harry Greb? What do you think? Make a comment. Like and subscribe and tell your friends, because this is just the start of something really, really cool. We can't wait to get started, because you know what? I think this is a really cool show and you're going to get into it, right?